Hey, fourth graders. I hope you are having a wonderful Friday. One of your last e-learning days. Hard to believe. Hopefully your last e-learning day. If we all get to come back, which is the plan. And I thought, it might be fun to have a special guest today. She was sitting right there so quietly I had to bring her on camera. Penelope the pig. Isn't she stylish? Oh, her mask is kind of covering her eyes. She's very extra with her sparkly sequins mask. Isn't she adorable? I think she might enjoy listening about our race assignment today. Okay, so I'm going to present my screen so I don't forget, and we are going to take a look at what you're doing today. Okay, so hopefully you have read the article, you have taken the quiz, you have done your race plan, and now all you have to do is revise and edit. Okay, so this is the article I'm talking about, Cliff Dwellers Dabble with Geometry. It's kind of a tongue twister, okay? And I hope you found it interesting. I think it's really cool because this is actually in Colorado, okay? And you can even go there and see what people from long ago used to live in, okay? I hope you found that article interesting. So let's take a look at our Newsela paragraph that you are going to write. So you should have your race plan finished. And then this is the prompt that you answered in your race plan. So it says, in the article, Cliff Dwellers dabbled in geometry. Why do scientists think that the Anasazi people used geometry? Give evidence to support your answer. Okay, so in this first box, we are restating the question and we are answering the question. And this time it is a question. And don't forget, when we do the restate, you need to include the title of the article. That is super important. Okay, so if you want to do a true restate, we have to include the name of the article. Okay, so how I would restate that, okay, you can kind of check and see if yours is restated like this. I would say the article that I read, actually, let me back up. In the article, Cliff Dwellers dabbled in geometry. Scientists think that Anasazi people use geometry because, okay, and then you give your example of why they think they use geometry, okay? So in the article, Cliff Dwellers dabbled in geometry. Scientists think that the Anasazi people use geometry because. If you watched carefully, the only words I didn't put in my restate are these two words, okay? Because that would make it a question. Remember, you're not writing a question here. That's not what it's asking you to do. You need to change the question into a statement to start your paragraph. Okay, so that should be your introduction sentence right there. All right, then once you have your restate and once you've answered the question, okay, there's actually a couple answers to that question that you could say because in the article it gave you a couple examples. But let's say for your evidence, maybe you want to say in your answer that you can tell by looking at their homes that they lived in. Okay, so to give evidence for that, let's go to the article. And let's see where they talked about how those people used geometry while building their homes. Let's see here. How about this part right here? I think this might be some good evidence. Let me read it. Sherry Towers is a mathematician at Arizona State University. Recently, Towers looked at pictures of the temple. She noticed that the Sun Temple has triangles and other shapes inside. Ooh, geometry. These shapes were also used by other ancient peoples. Measurements of the shapes were done very carefully. Okay, so maybe I want to quote, I could, if I wanted to quote this whole paragraph, we could kind of narrow it down though. You also, if you don't want to do a direct quote, you could say in the article, Sherry Towers stated that shapes in the dwellings of these ancient people had shapes that were done very carefully. That would be okay too. Remember, you don't always have to do a direct quote. If you would rather just kind of sum it up in your own words, that would work too. Okay. But just make sure that you are citing that text evidence. Okay? All right. Then the most important of all, you're going to explain what it means. So you could say this evidence means that the Anastasi people most likely used geometry even far long ago, because there are so many examples of ways that they use shapes to make their homes. Okay, that was just a quick example. But just make sure that you are explaining why this quote proves your answer is correct. Okay, so you are using that quote, okay, and then explaining what it means, okay, bringing it back up to how you answered the question. Okay. All right. And then once you have your plan done, you are copying and pasting box by box. Remember, highlight, Control C, then bring it down here, put your cursor down where you need it, Control V, and do that box per box. Okay. Don't highlight it all at once, because it will end up looking really goofy in your paragraph. Sometimes it also copies the table, and we don't want the table. We just want your fabulous writing. Okay. All right. And then I'm not going to go over this editing and revising checklist with you again, because I already went over this with you last week. So if you need a little refresher on that, you can watch my video before this. But remember, the number one thing you need to do is read through your writing to see if it flows. If we are repeating the same thing kind of over and over, we need to change up our words. Okay. So that's a big thing I noticed last week, or actually this week, when I was reading your Earth is Interesting paragraphs. We kind of repeated ourselves a little bit with using kind of very similar sentences in the same exact words. Just make sure you read it through. Okay. A good idea would be to read it out loud and see if it flows as a paragraph. Okay. So we're not repeating ourselves. That was the main thing I noticed. Also, you want to double check that the title of the article should be in your paragraph. Okay. Those are the main things I want you to look for this week. Okay. And just make sure that restate is a solid restate. Okay. When it says restate the question, it does not mean write a question. Okay. It means use the question to start out your statement. Okay. All right. Well, Penelope and I are rooting you on today. We'll be thinking about you this Friday, and we just know you're going to do an awesome job, and we cannot wait to read your amazing paragraphs. Okay. All right, folks. Well, that's all we have for today. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you later.